Today, we are going to be talking about the 5 must-haves that you need in order to finish your dissertation in 12 months or less. I created my signature program called the Finish Your Dissertation Institute, and it does exactly that. It will help you write your dissertation in 12 months. And so what I'm going to be talking about is how do we do that? And I'm going to ask you if you are at a place where you got a piece of paper, you got something to write with, because I'm going to give you these 5 things, and I want you, whether you decide to join the program or not, I want you to know, ask yourself, do I have these things, and how do I get these things if I don't? If you're coming in, let me know. Say hi. Tell me, give me like let's see, what's a question here? Give me a feeling. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling on this Monday, July 22nd? I am feeling real good. Let me tell you why. Okay, because a cat chose me, y'all. Okay, let me see if I could get her in the thing. She was just at my front door, and I was like, I guess I have a cat now. So I have a puppy. I guess he's not a puppy, but a dog and a cat. So that's going to be fun. I need to find a name for her. So if you have any name suggestions, please let me know. I'm thinking Leo, because today is the first day of Leo season. So if you have some fun cat names, let me know. But let's get into it. Okay, so what are the 5 must-haves? Number 1, do you have a clear timeline? This is what I mean. What is the month in the year that you will graduate? If you're brave, put it in the chat. What is the month in the year that you will graduate? You hear what my question is, that you will, not I might, not it would be nice. No, when will you graduate? Give me the month and the year. Because from that, so if it's December 2024, right, then we need to work backwards. So depending on where you are now, your timeline should include when you need to fully submit your draft to your committee. It should include when you're going to collect data and do IRB. It should include when you're going to propose or defend your proposal. And so then if we know those dates, right now you know exactly when you should have what part done by when. In the Finish Your Dissertation Institute, the expectation is that you are completing a chapter or a milestone every 30 days because we are moving fast. There's a process that we teach you inside so that you can put the words on a page, hit this timeline, and graduate when you want to graduate. Not everyone in the program is on a 12-month schedule, because sometimes people join and they're at the end of the dissertation. Sometimes people join, they're in coursework. Sometimes people are like, I'm just not in a rush to get it done in 12 months. Because the gag is, what the people didn't tell you, is that 12 months is an aggressive timeline. I know your program was probably like, you're going to do like 2 or 3 years of coursework and you're going to have a year for the dissertation. They made it seem like it was going to be really simple, right? Like you could just do this dissertation in a year. But if you are anywhere near the dissertation process, then you know that it's probably taking you months just to get started on your literature review. So my question to you then is, how would you then be able to write a dissertation in 12 months if it's taking you about that time to do a literature review? You need a process, which is why I am saying 12 months is aggressive. It's not impossible by no means. We have plenty of students who are doing it in 12 months or less. I just want to set expectations because your program was doing the hustle. They're real good at marketing. Okay, capitalism still exists within the ivory tower. So in order to get it and make it sound good, they told you 2 years of courses and 1 year of dissertating, and that's not the reality of majority of the students. And if you are someone who has been taking longer than what your program said it was, it is not you. It's not anything wrong with you. You're not broken. You just have some marketing thrown at you, and you're probably just judging yourself based off that marketing, but it's not true. So the first thing you must have is a clear timeline that begins with the date that you will graduate, because inside of our program, we don't do that. Oh, it might be nice. No, we're going to teach you how to talk to yourself. Like all of this I'm saying today is going to be real logical, but you're going to hear me go on some rants, because what I care most about is how you talk to yourself. I care about the stories that you tell yourself on a daily basis, because the stories, the quality of the stories that you tell yourself will determine how fast you finish this process. You cannot outwork a shitty mindset. It is something I say often. I don't care how tight your plan is, how many planners you have, how many colors you use and stickers and markers. If you are consistently on an everyday basis saying, oh, I just need to get it together. Oh, I'm such a slow writer. Or, oh, I'm never going to finish. You're going to prove yourself true. So we got to change that conversation. Okay, I'm not trying to go fully on a rant yet. I need to make it through this list. So that was number 1. Number 2, you need a planning process. Hear my words, a planning process that helps you to know exactly what you need to do every single week, how long it's going to take you to do it, and when you're going to do it. Most of you are probably using a planning system. Maybe it's a to-do list. Maybe you got something from somebody else, but it's most likely very general. You most likely are writing things like, on Tuesday, I am going to work on my literature review. On Wednesday, I'm going to find some articles. And while that sounds like it's clear, what happens on Tuesday when you go to work on your literature review? You know what happens? You sit down and you're like, ooh, look at me. Let me get my articles. Like, let me get my snacks. I got all my things. It's like, okay, I'm going to work on my literature review. Well, where do I begin? Do I just start writing? No, I can't just start writing. I need to go read. And then you go look for the articles. And then one article leads you to another article, which then leads you to another paper, which then leads you somewhere else. And before you know it, 5 hours have passed. You haven't written one word, even though in your plan you say you're going to work on your literature review. You see how when you have a vague plan, it can lead you to so many avenues. And if you are someone who is already navigating neurodivergence like ADHD, and you have trouble with executive functioning, you need a plan that is so clear. What we do inside the group is, I say you need to make a plan for the version of you that can only do the bare minimum. I want you to think about think about the past 6 or 7 months of 2024. What was the busiest year that you've had? Or not year, busiest week. Y'all, bear with me. It's been a week. But what is the busiest week you've had in this year so far? I want you to make a plan for that version of you. The version of you who was so overwhelmed and didn't have any time and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. When you make a plan for that version of you who can only do the bare minimum, you know what happens? You are more likely to show up because the plan you create is very simple. It doesn't require you to think. You're like, listen, I made this for the bare minimum version of me, so let me do that. What we practice, you're going to hear me say this a lot when you're in the group. I will tell you over and over to do the bare minimum. You are going to want to fight me though. Let me tell you how this is going to go. You're going to be like, Dr. Lacey, bare minimum is not in my vocabulary. I only get A's. I only do the most. And I'm going to tell you, how is that working for you? How's it working for you? Is it helping you finish your dissertation faster? Is anybody coming to you and being like, oh, you worked really hard. You've been working all those hours in front of your laptop. Are you getting a prize for the number of hours that you're showing up to your dissertation? Is your way helping you to put more words on the page? Are your high standards helping you to feel good and ease, like having this to be an easeful process? Do you feel peace? Do you feel joy? Or are you spending most of your time freaking out and being like, I'm never going to finish. I can't get it. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just so burnt out. I want to do it, but I'm tired, because you're trying to do the most. When I'm telling you to do the bare minimum, it's not because I want you to turn in poor work. It's because I'm trying to help you work with your nervous system so that you can show up to this process and produce the quality of work that you want to produce. You cannot continue to apply the same strategies and systems that you use in your undergrad and your master's program and in your coursework. Quite frankly, you can't use the same system. You're going to have to step up your game. You're going to have to step it up to a point where you are very clear and you're deliberate and you're decisive about, this is what I will do and this is what I won't do. You have to create a plan that doesn't say things like, oh, I need to work on my literature review, but instead says things like, I'm going to write 3 shitty paragraphs about my theoretical framework. Because when you're making a plan like that, when you get to a Tuesday or a Wednesday night or a Thursday night and you're tired and you've been working all day and you're irritated, but you said that you were going to show up to your dissertation, but your plan says, oh, you just need to write one shitty paragraph about narrative inquiry. You know what you do? You go write the shitty paragraph as fast as possible so that you can go on the couch and scroll on TikTok and you don't have to feel guilty because you didn't show up for your dissertation. But you can keep your struggle, like you can keep your high standards if that's so important to you. You can keep the struggle of being stuck in the dissertation if you want to. I'm just trying to help you. You need a planning process that helps you to show up even when you don't want to the most. So I'm going to end my rant there. I'm going to come back though. You need a process. What we do inside the Finish Your Dissertation Institute is on Sundays, we plan. Why? Because what did I just get through saying? On Sundays, you're going to sit down either with me or Dr. Henry, and we're going to walk you through the scholar planner routine. The first part of that is you evaluating how did you show up the past week? How did you show up? Did you show up? What did you do? How many hours? How many pages did you produce? Because we care more about the results than we do about how many hours you're spending in front of your computer. And now I'm about to go on a rant for real. Those of you who like love to wear it as a badge of honor, like, ooh, today I put in 10 hours. Ooh, today I worked until 3 a.m. What did you produce? Don't tell me about the hours you spent. What did you produce? How many pages did you produce? What were your results? It's cute that you spending all this time that you could be traveling, that you could be out in these streets, that you could be like getting your booty feel on because listen, okay, because it's summer. It's summer. We got a few more weeks before the semester begins. You could be outside. But if you would rather, sit in front of your computer and be able to tell everybody this is how much you work, you keep that struggle, friend, okay? I love that for you. But if you are inside the Finish Your Dissertation Institute, you got 10 hours or less every week. And in that 10 hours, it needs to include what you're writing. You need to produce at least 2 pages if you're actively writing. And it needs to include how you're showing up to one of these calls inside of our institute. We create a comprehensive program that gives you a complete system for being a doc student. Who is teaching you how to be a doc student? Who's teaching you how to be a doctor? Yeah, you might know all the stuff. You might be reading all the content, but do you know how to be a doctor? Do you feel confident and that what you believe to be true, that you can articulate that to anybody who asks you? If your chair came to you and said, I want to know why you're doing your study and like why I need it, can you like show up and talk with confidence? Or are you going to spend most of that time being like, well, I don't know, but I think it sounds like this. I'm not sure. This comes to a planning process. Because when you show up every week with us on Sundays and you are evaluating what's working for you, you're celebrating your wins, proud, like, listen, we toot all the horns in there. Okay, you're going to say all your wins. You're going to say this worked for me, doing it this way, writing with this person worked for me. You're going to talk about what got in your way, what stopped you from showing up every week. And when you talk about what stopped you from showing up, you're not going to be like, oh, I know, I just need to get it together. I don't want to hear none of that. I want to know, you said you were going to write on Wednesday. Why didn't you write on Wednesday? Not because I'm about to yell at you, but because we need to know, because that's helpful information. Because if the reason why you didn't show up to write on Wednesday is because you were burnt out or you got some devastating news, or Wednesdays are the days where your favorite TV show comes on like Abbott Elementary and you would rather watch that, then what we can do for the following week is make sure you don't put nothing on Wednesday. If you know Wednesday night is your TV night, why are you trying to write? Well, I need to just buckle down. I need to get serious. No. This is why we only work 10 hours a week, because you are a whole human who has a whole life. Your whole life does not need to be focused around this dissertation. The dissertation is just one part of your life. It is not your whole life. So you need a planning process that allows you to make consistent progress without derailing your life and without causing you to have burnout. Okay, so that's number 2. I'm going to move on. But before I do, can I get a 1 in the chat if you're following me? How we doing so far? Because, I did come out real strong. I was just like, boom. Put a 1 in the chat if you are following me. Because number 1 was a clear timeline. Number 2 is a planning process to know what to do in what order. And I'm looking at my notes if you see me looking down. Okay. Thank y'all so much. Number 3, do you consistently communicate or meet with your chair weekly? Are you consistently communicating or meeting with your chair every week? That could look like you send them an email and you say, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is where I might be getting stuck, but this is what you can expect from me. Or are you scheduling a meeting with them and you're like, hey, let me give you these pages. Let's talk through this feedback. Let me ask you my questions. For some of you, I want to ask, when was the last time you met with your chair? When was the last time you saw their face, you heard their voice? When was the last time you told them what was going on with you in your dissertation? When was the last time you gave them pages? You cannot do this process without your chair. Your chair has the most power in this dynamic. What I mean by power is that they're the decision maker. It is not about if you're good enough or qualified enough to move forward. It is about, does this proposal or does this dissertation meet your chair's expectations and what a research project should be, of what a research manuscript should look like? The only way to know that is to talk to your chair, is to submit pages to your chair. Stop giving it to your bestie and your mentor and so over there in the other program. That's not your chair. Your chair is your chair. You need to learn how to show up in a room, on a Zoom, on a phone with your chair, and you say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I got going on. I think I'm going to approach it this way, but I would love your feedback on this particular part. I would love your feedback on the timeline. I would love you hear the language I'm using? I would love your feedback on how I'm approaching this. You need to learn how to manage up with your chair. Y'all real good at this, right? At work. But how are you managing your chair? Or are you going in and being like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been reading. I can't think of a topic. I'm so confused. I don't know. Nobody wants to help. Nobody want to help you do that. Nobody want to do that. Nobody wants to, Because if you overwhelm and I'm overwhelmed, because y'all forget that your chairs are people. You forget that they just like glorify like graduate students who just get paid more. And what I mean by that is most of them are still acting like they were in their doctoral program. Most of them are doing 50 million projects and they're overwhelmed themselves and they have life stuff and family stuff. And you are just one of the million things on their to-do list. And so when you come into their office or on their phone or on their Zoom and you're bringing a lot of like confusion and overwhelm and a lot of emotions, they're not equipped to handle that. So that's why they keep telling you things like, keep reading, keep writing. I can't wait to read it. Because their job isn't to help you with your emotions. Their job isn't to help you organize. Their job is not to help you feel confident. Their job is not to help you write either. Their only job is to review your document to see if it meets the standards, how they understand it related to research. They are only responsible for helping you design and conduct the research. The writing, the project management, your confidence, that's a you job. You are expected to go find those resources and support. So for those people who are like, well, I don't need a dissertation coach. I got my chair. Your chair only has one job, and that's the research. What about the project management? What about writing? What about your identity as a doctor? Who's going to help you with that? But again, like I said, if you want to stay in your struggle, friends, stay in your struggle because I love it for you. But in order to get your chair to do their job, and you to stop doing their job for them, but to get them to do their job, you need to be communicating with them on a weekly basis. That can be as small as an email that just tells them what's going on with you. But eventually you're going to get to a place where you're going to want to meet with them because you're going to be submitting drafts so quickly that you're going to want to meet on a weekly basis. I'm thinking about, who was I just talking to? I was talking to a client who, where she is in the process, like how we started working is we started with the methods chapter. She wrote a shitty version of her methods chapter and she turned that into her chair. While her chair was taking his 2 weeks to review the methods chapter, we started working on the literature review. We got a shitty draft of the literature review in 2 weeks. So when he gave her back the edits for the methods chapter, she was like, here's the literature review. And then she went to go work on the methods chapter. Once the methods chapter was approved and she was still working on the literature review, she started working on the introduction. And this is how she had a complete shitty draft of her proposal in 6 weeks. Now she's going to spend another 6 weeks or so of going back and editing. But when the school year starts, she's going to defend. This is why we work in the way that we do. This is why you need to meet with your chair. And her chair, let me be clear, it wasn't like he was just sitting there waiting on her. He had a whole wedding in a whole nother country. And he was like, yeah, you don't have to rush. We'll get to it when I get back. And she was like, hey, I don't know. You can go get married or whatever. That's good for you, but I'm on a timeline. Because she is confident, because she knows exactly what she's doing, she knows exactly why she's doing it, she knows exactly what she wants, she's not afraid to tell her chair, like, hey, I'm not waiting. When you get back, or no, she said, before you go to your wedding, you're going to have an entire proposal. When you come back, can I expect that you're going to have feedback from me for the proposal? Can I expect that I'm going to defend this proposal when the school year begins the first week? When you have a system like this, you talk to your chair like that because you recognize that they are a colleague who is here to help you. They are not some authority figure that is here to tell you if you're worthy or not of becoming a doctor. Of course you're worthy of becoming a doctor. You're deserving of it. You don't have to prove shit to nobody else. This dissertation is not you proving your worth of becoming a doctor. This dissertation is you learning how to design and conduct a research project from start to finish. This dissertation should be your worst version of your work as an academic. It should not be the best thing that you ever written. Why? Because you are learning how to do a thing. How are you expected to do something perfectly that you've never done before? And does perfect exist? Okay, I'm trying to go through my list. I keep going on rants. So that is number 3. Number 4, do you have a process for reading, writing, and editing? Said another way, do you have a process for producing at minimum 2 pages a week? Like if I was to ask you by the end of Friday to produce 2 pages, do you have a process that will let you read, write, edit, and produce at least 2 pages that'll give a C- or better? If the answer is no, or I don't know, I have to think about it, work on that. What we do is I teach you how to read. I get that you know how to read, and you most likely are taking your articles. I love it. Y'all like make my heart smile. Y'all like, look at me, Dr. Lacey. I got my highlighters. I'm taking notes. Somebody today was like, look at all my notes that I put on the back of this article. And I'm like, how long did it take you to read that? Oh, she's like, like an hour or 2. There's no world. Look at me right now. There is no world that you should be spending 2 hours on an article. That means that you are just, it's like foreplay in a way. I'm trying not to make this sexual, but what I mean is you're just making yourself feel good. You're not actually producing anything for your dissertation. This is not, I don't know what the people told you. I know they probably told you some version of like the dissertation is where you're going to get lost in the literature. No, not when you're trying to finish your dissertation in 12 months or less. You need to be able to take 10 to 15 minutes, read an article, and move on to writing. Let me say it again for the people who are multitasking in the back. You should be able to take about 10 to 15 minutes per article and immediately go to writing. Do you have a process that'll help you do that? When you get into writing, do you have a process that gets you multiple paragraphs, and then those paragraphs turn into multiple pages without you having to spend hours in front of your computer? If the answer is no, we need something else. If you're constantly turning in drafts and your chair is saying things like, this is unclear, I don't understand, can you say more? You need a better editing process. We teach you all 3. Thursdays inside of the Finish Your Dissertation Institute is dedicated to learning how to read, write, and edit like a scholar. I'm going to show up and show you how to read, edit, and write like a scholar because you most likely are spending too much time on the wrong things. What this will require of you, because I want to be all the way real, what it's going to require of you is that you're going to have to get comfortable with this process being messy. And most of you like to have like your nice, neat boxes, and you're like, I'm just going to work on this part. I'm going to work on this one sentence for 3 hours until it's perfect. But you think you're going to finish your dissertation in 12 months like that? Research is messy, especially if you're doing qualitative research. It's messy. It's meant to be messy. It's meant to feel like I'm doing all these things and I don't know if it's coming together or not. But you need to learn how to trust yourself and trust in your system that you build for yourself that it's going to come together in the end. This is why it's important to have a community. Because there's going to be days where you're going to question if what you're doing is even making sense, if what you're doing is going to work. And you need to be able to come into a community and be like, y'all, I'm ready to give up on this shit. I don't even want to be doctor. Who the fuck needs a degree? I don't need a degree. And you need people who going to talk back to you to be like, I mean, you could quit. You could. It's an option. Ain't nobody going to judge you. But if you don't want to quit, here's what we can do. Because that's the type of community we have. Nobody's going to make you feel bad for anything that you have to say, what you thought you were going to do and you didn't do. That's not how we roll. How we roll is like, step up your game. Oh, you think, so Chris is on this call? Oh, you thought you were going to take a year to write your proposal? No, you got a month. You have 30 days. So what do we need to do so you can write this in 30 days? Like, that's the level of when I say you're going to step up your game, that's what's going to happen. Nobody, like, if you're used to being the one in the friend group who's the most ambitious and is always going after goals, imagine being in a whole community of 50 plus people of being like, oh, we too are that person in our friend group. So we're not going to let you play small. We're not about to let you, like, cheat on yourself. Like, no, you're going to step your game up and you're going to do things that you have no idea that you could do. It's making me think about, let me think of an example. Tiffany Alexander. So Dr. Tiffany Alexander, right? She came into the program and she was like, I really want to finish. It's Halloween. She's like, I really want to finish by May, but I just don't think I could do it. And I was like, what if you did it by February? Like, why are we even talking about May? Why not February? And of course she looks at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, but what if you could? What would you need to do? And as I introduced that question, the rest of the community started giving her reasons as to why she could do it. Other people were putting things in the chat of like, you could do this. Here's this. I'm going to be writing here. You can join me. People started joining together and she did that. By February, she had a full draft of her dissertation. It was shitty, but she spent March editing, April editing, and she was done. When you have the proper support behind you, you could do anything. Most of you, and I'm about to get real serious. Let me take a sip of water. Most of you are similar to me in that you grew up. I'm a first-gen student, meaning no one in my family, especially my immediate family, has a 4-year degree, let alone a doctorate degree. So that means I was going into a process where I didn't understand. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what questions I should be asking. I didn't know who I should be asking for as a mentor. There's a price associated with that. A lot of people, what you don't realize is that most people who enroll into a doctorate program, they're not the first ones in their family. Or they have a level of support. They have people telling them, this is what you can expect in your first year. This is what you can expect in your second year. They have people they can go to ask questions of like, oh, should I be doing this? They have people who are like, oh, fill out for this fellowship. Go to this conference. When you don't have that, you have to pay the price of learning. Like, you're feeling your way through the dark. You have to learn who you can talk to and who not, what opportunities exist. And sometimes you're not going to know that. But when you have community around you, y'all, excuse sir, his anxiety is on 10 today. When you have community around you who can help you, who can tell you what they're doing, it will introduce you to opportunities that you didn't know exist. But maybe you are like me and you're not used to being supported. And so you never ask anyone for help. You're the strong one in the friend group. You're like, no, I could do it by myself. And you see asking for help as a sign of failure. A lot of you feel like if you have to go to someone and say, I can't do this or I need help doing this, then that means that you failed. Like you were supposed to know something that you didn't know, or you were supposed to do something, you didn't do it. But my question is always, how are you supposed to know a thing that no one has ever taught you? If you are similar to me and you're a first-gen student and it's your first time, or anyone in your family going to get a doctorate degree, how can you punish yourself for not knowing the system when you've never done it before? The biggest thing, people ask me like, what's the biggest challenge in a group for students? And you probably would think it's writing, or you would think like, oh, getting themselves to be consistent. Do you know that the hardest part for students is being okay with people showing up and supporting them? Being okay with people like rooting for them and not being facetious about it at all? Do you know how like disarming that's going to be to your nervous system when you come from a background where you couldn't depend on people to show up for you, when you couldn't depend on people to know the answers, when you were always the smart one, even when you were a child? The reason why we focus so much on emotions is because of that. Because there's an inner child or an inner teenager that's going to be fighting for its life because it's like, we can't trust this. We can't get used to this. We can't listen to this person. We don't, You're going to have a voice that says you shouldn't ask for help. We are going to teach you how to ask for help, how to expect that people show up for you, how to move about this world being like, this is what I need, and you expect people to show up and meet your needs. I remember when it first hit me that I was like, I don't know what I need. People would be like, you just got to tell people what you need. You just got to teach people how to treat you. And I was like, I don't understand what you mean. What do you mean? I've just always had me to figure it out. So what do you mean? Teach people how to treat me. I got it. I could do it myself. But as I started to do this work more and more, I started realizing, I do have needs. So the first set of needs that we focus on in this group is your basic needs. Are you drinking water? Are you sleeping? Do you eat? Do you take breaks? Do you talk to people who you love and you like, who make you laugh? Do you have sex with your partner? Do you go on date nights? Do you read the books you love to read and not just research stuff? Are you taking that trip, that girl's trip? Those are basic needs. I don't care if you think those are luxuries. Those are basic needs. Next, we talk to you about what are your needs as it relates to the dissertation. What do you need from your chair? What do you need from your committee members? And need is no longer a bad word. It's like, no, that's how I get through this process. I have needs. And I'm going to clearly communicate those needs to those people so that they can show up and help me. Let me give you an example, or like a frame that might make this make sense. You might be going to your chair, your committee, you might be like, I just need help. I just need to know what to do. And people are not giving you the feedback or the answers that you're looking for. You're like, no, I'm looking for specificity. Like, I need somebody to tell me exactly what to do. And they're like, oh, we can't. Right? It reminds me, so my background is in advocacy around sexual and domestic violence. And so I used to do a lot of training around bystander intervention. And one of the main things that we would teach folks who would join the workshop is to say, when you're asking people for help, you have to be clear in your ask, right? So when there's an emergency or something that's happening, if people are like, someone needs to call the police, or I need help. It doesn't matter if there's 10,000 people on the street, there might be no one who will help the person. Because whenever we hear something very general of like, I need help or call the police, we assume that someone else is going to do it. And usually no one else is doing it. But when you look at someone in the street and you say, hey, Dr. Sebastian, I need help writing this last section of my literature review, Dr. Sebastian's going to be like, oh, exactly, I can help you. So if I put it in a bystander intervention training, it's like, hey, can you call the police? That person will do it because our nervous system will respond to a direct ask. What does this mean for you in your dissertation? It's just like I was using the example with Dr. Sebastian. When you go to your chair, you need to be very clear. You need to say, hey, I was working on my problem statement and I was trying to connect it back to a broader topic. Can you help me connect this back or brainstorm ideas about how to connect it to a broader topic? That sounds way better than, I'm just having a hard time writing my introduction. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to help you. But I find that the reason why students can't make a direct ask is because you're not used to thinking about what it is that you need. You're not used to thinking of yourself or thinking you're deserving, that you're worthy enough for people to show up and give you what you're asking for. I'm gonna skip that, but I'm gonna come back. But I just want to say, like, a lot of work that we're doing is seeing what is it that you need and doing the work around removing the shame and the guilt because you need a thing. It is okay to ask for help. It is expected that you expect people to show up and help you. And we do that by communicating to people, this is what I need, and we're asking them, can you help me, yes or no? And going to find somebody who can. All right, so number 1 was a clear timeline. Number 2 was a clear planning process that helps you know what to do and in what order. Number 3 is consistently communicating and or meeting with your chair every week. Number 4 was having a process for producing at least 2 pages a week. And number 5, do you have a process, like on those days where imposter syndrome is real, where anxiety would not shut the fuck up, when you are so overwhelmed and confused and tired and you just don't know how you're going to keep going? Do you have a process to help you go from a state of like that or burnout to putting words on the page? Do you have some way of helping yourself to show up even when you're like, I don't know if I still have it? If you don't, you need to be in this program. We do something called the Scholar Stories, right? Because as humans, we tell ourselves stories all day long. It is said, like, on average that we think some 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. But majority of those, like 60-70% of those, are just the same thought on repeat. We're just thinking, we're in the habit of thinking the same thing. So the things that you like to say to yourself of like, I'm just not consistent, or I need to get it together, or I'm just being lazy, or I'm just a slow writer. You think you're telling yourself factual information when in fact you're telling yourself stories, opinions. You're just used to telling yourself something over and over. Like, we might get used to telling ourselves the story of, I'm just so tired, I'm just so busy. It's just a habit. Why? Because your brain loves habits. Your brain loves a routine. Your brain likes doing the same thing over and over. If your brain knows, oh, I can expect the same thing over and over, it feels safe. It feels calm. It feels regulating. But if you're someone and one day you're doing this over here, the next day you're over here, your nervous system is shot. Your anxiety is through the roof. The reason why you're feeling so burnt out is because you don't have a routine that helps you to achieve your goal of finishing your dissertation. Because you haven't been focusing on the habits. And the habits come from how we talk to ourselves up here. So when you learn how to change how you talk to yourself, the way you behave, the way you feel on a day-to-day basis will drastically change. I'm not simply saying, oh, you're just going to think positive, you're going to journal. No, friend. We do the work. Let me think of an example. So if you're saying, you're like, oh, I want to turn in my literature. So today I was coaching someone. They were like, I turned in my literature review, but I haven't heard back from my chair. And what if they hate it? What if they tell me I got to get kicked out the program? I'm not going to be like, oh, that won't happen. You don't have to worry about it. That's not my style. My style is, okay, what if they do? What if they say you wrote the worst fucking draft ever? What if they say you got to get kicked out the program? What will you do? And I am going to hold space while you think about that. You're going to want to say, well, I know it doesn't happen. Because the rule is, if your brain raises a question, it is your job to answer it. Because if you don't answer that question, you know who's going to answer it? Your anxiety, your imposter syndrome, your shame. And if you leave it to those parts of you to answer the question, it's going to always be real negative and real hurtful. But if you play it out and you say, okay, if my chair does come to me and say, this draft isn't working, well, I most likely will probably cry, and then I'll probably ask them what's not working about it, and then I'll give them what they're asking for. The reason why we play it full out is because it allows your anxiety to say, okay, I was talking to you, I was concerned, you responded, I can go away. You most likely are having a lot of anxiety and stress because you're not talking back to it. Anxiety is never going away. Imposter syndrome has to stay. It is a requirement of the process. No matter what goal you're going after, imposter syndrome has to be there. It's your teacher. But if you keep ignoring it and avoiding it and refusing to listen or talk back to it, it's just going to build and build, and it's going to present as burnout. It's going to present as deep depression. It's going to present as your body is aching. It has a toll on you because if you keep ignoring it, it's just going to get bigger. And you need a process that'll help you work through that. In no way am I trying to be your therapist. I am trying to give you something tactical, tangible that you can use in the day-to-day to process your emotions and put words on a page. Because I mean it when I say you're going to do this in 12 months or less, only working 10 hours a week. But if you don't have a process to deal with your emotions, that's not going to work. Because I can tell you exactly what to do. I can tell you exactly what order to do it in. But if you don't believe it's possible, then it won't matter. Okay, so do we have some questions? Because I told you all 5 things. The Finish Your Dissertation Institute, I said it was going to close today, but y'all been in the DMs because y'all been fighting. So I'm going to leave it open for another week. I want you to know that technically the cohort is full, but I had to go find some more help so we can get a second cohort. But I promise you on Monday, the 29th, it's a wrap. We're going to be closed. The August 2024 cohort will be closed. So you will have to wait until the next opening, which I think won't be until the end of October or November. How large is the program or each cohort? So each cohort is 10 people. The program, I think we have about 50 active people right now, but not everyone comes to every call. The cohort is 10 people. What you're going to do is you're going to type FYD. You're going to get an automated message. It's going to give you 4 questions. I'm asking you to answer it. After I get off this live, I'm going to go look at your answers and I'm going to respond back to you. I'm also going to send you an email. In that email, I am going to give you a recording, what I just did today, a couple of hours ago, where I go over exactly what is included in the program, how it helps you, and why you need it. I also will give you information about joining one of our calls live. So probably since today is Monday, I'm going to give you a link to join us on Thursday because I'm a fan of you. You need to try it out before you spend your money. But if you know this is going to work for you, then you come on in. But if you're somebody like, oh, I'm still on the fence, come to our Thursday call. Experience the community for yourself. Get a sense of how I show up and I teach and I coach. Make sure. Feeling your body. How do you feel while you're there? What are you hearing? Do you see yourself reflected? And after that, you make a decision to join us. You'll have until Monday. I know, though, if you come to a call, I know you're going to be in the program. That's how confident I am. 10 toes down. I already know. Nobody else has a program like this. Because everybody else is so busy teaching you how to do the research part, which you already know how to do. Nobody is helping you to show up when you're scared as hell that you don't have what it takes to be a doctor. Nobody else is helping you to process when you're like, I know myself to be the smart, capable student who's always on top of it, and now I can't even write a paragraph. They're going to tell you like, oh, but maybe you should go, journal or something. Nobody has a process for it. Many of you have been following me as I've been writing a book. I'm going to be done with this book today. Today is day 3. I'm going to be done with my first shitty draft of this book in 3 days. It's 12 chapters. How could I do it so quickly? It's the same process I'm teaching you in this program. This process will not only serve you for your dissertation, it will also serve you for if you're going to be an academic, you're going to keep publishing, or you're going to do any forms of writing. The reason why I'm writing this book in 5 days is because I was like, oh, people got it twisted. Like, it's been 7 years since I did my dissertation. I think they think it's a fluke. And you don't want to tempt me with a good time. I'm competitive. I don't think people realize that. And so somebody was like, well, if you could do it, why can't you just write it in 5 days? Oh, challenge accepted. I'm going to write a full shitty draft of my book in 3 days. And then I'm going to show you how I go through the editing process and the feedback process, because I want to show you that this works. This is why I'm so confident in it. Okay, let me go up to see. I done got myself distracted. I'm in the 3rd year of my program. I took 2 months off of writing, and I feel like I've made a grave mistake taking this amount of time off. Okay, if anybody's in a similar situation, it's still Magnolia. I don't know if you're still here, but I'm just going to talk. It is never, and I mean that, and I'm saying never. It is never a mistake to take time off to take care of yourself. Don't let these people and these oppressive ass systems have you thinking like, oh, I'm supposed to show up like a robot. You are a human. A human. You are not a robot. You are not expected to keep going just like all this shit keeps happening. You just go and you don't have any feelings. It doesn't impact you at all. You need a break. I am quick to put somebody on the timeout. I'm quick to be like, go ahead and take 2 months off or 4 weeks off. Don't even touch that dissertation. Why? Because it makes no sense. In my mind, it is illogical to force a person to continue to show up to their computer when their brain will not allow them to focus or work. What's the point? Just to say you showed up and sat in front of the computer? Wouldn't it be better if you just go lay down somewhere, or like go scroll or do something to help yourself? So if you needed 2 months off, you needed that. So that's number one. Number two, what I have found is that when people come back from a break and they still have a hard time showing up to write or like make progress, you're not going to want to hear this, but it most likely means that you didn't take a break long enough. Like the break wasn't long enough. You underestimated just how grave your burnout was. Burnout is a real thing, y'all. It is not just something you can get over. A nap is not going to fix it. A vacation is not going to fix it. Burnout needs structural changes and it needs time. It's okay to take a break. When you come back, what we do inside the group, what I'll tell you is, as you're trying to ease back from a long break like that, don't try to do the big projects. Focus on the scholar basics, right? So I mentioned this earlier. When you're coming off of a break, focus on the scholar basics. That means, are you drinking 64 ounces of water? Are you laying down or sleeping at least 7 hours a night? Are you moving your body for at least 10 minutes? Are you emptying out your brain, giving your anxiety a time to air its grievances out for at least 10 minutes? You do that consistently for a week. The next week, then you add on the fifth basic, which is write a shitty paragraph. The paragraph isn't meant to be usable. It is meant to establish a habit. So you're going to do that for 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, you're going to start to feel some momentum. You're going to be like, look at me. I've been consistent with these habits, doing my scholar basics. And how you'll know that you're ready to do something else is there's going to be an urge from the inside that's like, oh, I think we should write. It's not going to feel like shame or like heavy, like you should have done this. No, it's going to feel like, oh, I have so much to say, I need to say it. That's how I feel writing this book. I'm like, I got so many words to get out. I can't get them out fast enough. When you feel like that, that's when it's time to re-enter fully back into the dissertation process. I just find that students, they take a break, but they needed a break a year ago. By the time you allow yourself to take a break, you needed it a year ago. We don't take a break when we're completely depleted. We take a break when we first started to notice, oh, I'm getting tired. That's when you take a break. So that's when I noticed that people just, they don't do it as soon as they needed to. And then 2, they don't have a process for easing back into the process. Processing the process. But yeah, we need to ease. We need transitions. Transitions are important. Okay. 5 hours later, I am on Instagram. Yes. Terrible feedback from Chair. Oh, wait, Danielle, I missed yours. Yes, this is my biggest issue, a process. You always help me, remind me of my plan. Yeah, we make a plan. I do that across business coaching as well, y'all. Any program you're in of mine, we make a plan. Okay, you're getting terrible feedback from your chair, right? We just need to learn how to talk to them in very clear terms. I think about everybody as like a toddler or a puppy or something. Not because I'm trying to demean them. It's because it reminds me to be very clear with them. I need you to do X, Y, Z. Instead of saying, what are you doing? Or can't you help me? People don't understand that. You got to be very clear. And that includes in feedback. Facts. People cheer real hard with you. They listen, support, ride at dawn, help. It's a real community with names, faces that care and finish the program. Thank you so much, Chris. Yes, it is like I tell people, like you've never experienced a community like this where you can be your nerdy whole self, right? Chris regularly comes onto the call with a good cigar and a glass of whiskey. And I'd be so jealous. I'm going to go get me some whiskey next time. But I ask that you just show up to the calls as you are. We don't perform professionalism here. That's white supremacy. You show up how you are. So if you in your bed with your bonnet on, show up that way. If the kids is hanging off one of the doors or somewhere, that's how you show up. If you got a baby in your lap, that's how you show up. You show up how you can. The goal is to show up. It's not to perform a certain thing. Okay, so I think I answered all the questions. I'm gonna keep scrolling down. I don't see anything else. If anything comes up, y'all, please feel free to send me a DM. I'm going to be there. Like I said, I'm going to keep enrollment open until next Monday, the 29th, or until we get to 10 in this new cohort. And I think honestly, y'all, I think it's almost like halfway filled. I need to go check the numbers for this weekend, but people have been signing up. So if you're someone on the fence, I am stopping at 20, okay? Because we're not going to keep bringing people in if we're not able to properly support them. It is important to me that you have the support you need. So when we get to 20, it's a wrap. So if you're on the fence and you know this program is for you, you need to hit FYD or type FYD and come on in. I watched 2 trial calls. I'm all in, just signed up. I am so excited. Welcome to the program. We officially begin on August 4th, but as you could probably tell already, you have access to the program. It's just not set up as it will be on the 4th. So I just want to make that note because I know there was some confusion. But you can start writing. There's people who have already asked me for help, asked me for coaching, even though they don't start until the 4th. If any other things come up, let me know, y'all. But I look forward to seeing you in the group, and I will talk to y'all later, y'all. I'm gonna go figure out what to do with this cat that I don't have a name for yet, who just showed up at my door, and I'm gonna clean up some. Okay, have a good night, y'all. Bye.